And this right here, what's in there?
Beer.
That's 100% beer?
Yes, sir.
Give me a fair question, hands behind your back.
A night out at a pizza restaurant turned criminal for a Georgia couple after witnesses reported they were caught on camera reportedly giving beer to their 1-year-old child and even laughing about it. Now, exclusive surveillance footage obtained by Law&Crime reveals the disturbing scene in chilling detail. And I'm going to break it all down right now. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Hey everybody, this is another Law&Crime legal alert. If you received Depo-Provera birth control shots and were later diagnosed with a brain or spinal tumor called meningioma, you may be eligible for a lawsuit. That's right, Morgan & Morgan, they're investigating claims that patients weren't properly warned about this risk. It's free to check, just takes a few minutes, and you don't pay unless they win. So scan the QR code on screen, click the link below, or head on over to forthepeople.com/LCDepo to see if you qualify. It could have been a simple family dinner at Old Chicago Pizza in Sharpsburg, Georgia for Craig Banks and Peyton Gregory. They were eating there with their 1-year-old child. Could have been a simple night. But unfortunately, that simple outing took a really disturbing turn when restaurant staff noticed something unthinkable. This couple was allegedly feeding beer to their child. Again, 1 year old. Not once, multiple times. And apparently while even laughing about it. Now, if true, this leaves serious questions about what on earth these parents were thinking. We obtained the 911 phone call, police reports, even exclusive CCTV surveillance footage capturing exactly what happened that night and why this case has investigators and child welfare experts horrified. So you go back to the evening of June 3rd, 2025, and employees at the Old Chicago Pizza and Tap Room called 911 after witnessing what they say was incredibly disturbing behavior from the couple seated at the bar. Take a listen to this.
Kaye County 911 operator 18, where's your emergency?
Hi, I'm the kitchen manager at Old Chicago in Sharpsburg. I have a couple sitting at my bar with a baby, and they've been letting it sip on their beer.
Wait, what's the address?
I have it on camera. They let the baby drink it maybe 8, 9, 10 times.
Okay, and how old does this baby look?
Maybe 2.
2, okay.
It's a baby, yeah. I haven't approached them. I don't want to cause a scene. I have other guests here, so a bunch of my staff came running to me because they saw them feeding the baby alcohol.
Now, when Coweta County deputies arrived, they spoke with Banks and Gregory, and this couple at first claimed they did nothing wrong. They had no idea what was going on. And then the deputies, they head inside the bar to meet with the restaurant manager. And the manager hands over security video that allegedly captured that incident in clear detail. Take a listen.
And this right here, what's in there?
Beer.
That's 100% beer?
Yes, sir.
So that footage seems to show the pair sitting at the bar with their infant, their child, and investigators say Banks waited for the bartender to look away before tilting a 23-ounce beer toward the toddler's mouth. And each time, police say, as he was doing this, Gregory, who was holding the child, was just watching, just laughing. That's the allegations. Oh, and by the way, police say this happened at least 6 times, and they were glancing around to ensure no one was watching. Unfortunately for them, people were watching. Police then went outside the bar, approached Banks in the parking lot. He denied ever even being there. Take a look.
What's the problem?
I'm asking, you were at the bar today?
No, I was not.
You weren't at the bar at all?
No, not at all.
Did you drink anything today?
Nope.
You didn't drink nothing either?
Like 5 hours ago.
Like 5 hours ago?
Yeah.
All right, so you didn't have a beer while you were here?
What's the problem, dude?
According to the police report, Banks even snapped at the officer for asking him if he gave his baby the alcohol. And that report also reveals that Gregory allegedly confessed to police. And we're going to get more into the specifics of the report in a moment, but that apparent admission, along with the video, led police to arrest the pair, charge them with contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
Give me a fair question, hands behind your back.
I'm going to jail.
Her too, because she was sitting there watching them.
Who are you out here with?
Now, the child, who had just turned 1 the previous month, was placed in the care of a grandparent, and the case was also referred to Georgia's Division of Family and Children Services. To help me break all this down, I want to bring on a special guest, friend of the show, former state attorney for Palm Beach County, Florida, and now author, Dave Aronberg. Dave, good to see you. Surprised us with a book. You're an author. What's this book about?
Thank you, Jesse. It's great to be here. This is the book I wrote with Dr. Dave Campbell with a foreword by Joe Scarborough. It's called Fighting the Florida Shuffle. It's about the scams, fraud, and abuse in the drug treatment industry and how federal law that's well-intended, like the Affordable Care Act, has unwittingly fueled the scams, the fraud, because the more services you provide, the more money you make. So there's no incentive for sobriety, no incentive for recovery. The incentives are for relapse, and that's not the way the system should be.
That is a very prevalent topic. A lot of people are talking about it right now, and this kind of conversation right now with you authoring it, I think it's an important one to have, and I hope everybody can check it out. That's great. I'm glad you wrote about that. I think a lot of people, a lot of families have been affected by that in negative ways. So
thank you. But there is a silver lining because it shows how we're successful in fighting the Florida Shuffle in Palm Beach County. It's a prescription for other communities to follow.
Okay, I love it. Well, I hope everybody can go check it out. We'll keep the book up so throughout the show so people can see it. But I want to talk to you about this. I mean, my gosh. If you take the video evidence, right, the surveillance, and you take Gregory's alleged confession, would you have pursued additional charges beyond contributing to the delinquency of a minor? Like, I don't know, child endangerment, child neglect? What do you think? If this were in Florida?
Yes, you could, and perhaps charges will follow. They just went for the lowest hanging fruit. But I think it'll be such an outcry. This is a case that resonates with everyone. You don't have to have a law degree to be like, what is going on here? Everyone knows you don't give beer to a 1-year-old, and also how deceptive and swarmy he was on the video. When he's confronted, he acts like we're back in like the 70s where there is not a camera everywhere. He says, I wasn't there. Like, really, why do you think police are talking to you now? It's because you're on camera.
Well, he might have also been under the influence of some substance. I mean, he might have been drunk, right? That's a possibility.
Always a possibility.
Well, look, and by the way, when we talk about delinquency of a child, it's a term we use a lot. What does that actually mean? So I want to give everybody a sense here what a delinquent act means under Georgia law. I looked it up. An act committed by a child designated a crime by the laws of the state or the laws of another state if the act occurred in that state under federal laws or by local ordinance, and the act is not an offense applicable only to a child or a juvenile traffic offense. So I guess the idea is you're giving a child, an underage child, alcohol. That's illegal, and you're contributing to that.
Right. And I think because we don't yet know if there are any negative effects. I mean, if something happened to that child, you would see more serious charges, but I still think you can still charge them with child neglect when you're out there in public. I mean, it's bad enough you're bringing your 1-year-old to a bar. I mean, there's a pizza place and bar, but then you're surreptitiously giving the child beer, looking around. So you know they knew they were doing something wrong. This wasn't like, hey, we tried it once. And to me, as a former prosecutor, I wonder how many times have they done this before they got caught? It doesn't seem like this is their first time.
Well, here's the thing, right? This child could not be more defenseless. You're in the care of these parents. They're supposed to take care of you. And if these allegations are true, you know, you're harming the child. So when I talk about the Georgia's Division of Family and Children's Services are now getting involved, what does that mean exactly?
Well, it means that they're investigating and the child has been removed from their custody to a relative, and there'll be a procedure to undergo to decide whether or not the child is removed permanently. I suspect they'll lawyer up and they'll fight to get their child back. And the presumption is that you want the child to be reunited with the parents. So they'll investigate. How else is the child being taken care of? They'll look at the home, for example. Is the home well kept? Is this a place that is a healthy environment for a baby? And they'll make that decision. So yeah, they opened up a whole can of worms here because now they've got the state investigators going to be crawling around their home and looking at employment and everything else.
You know, one thing to allegedly give your child, a 1-year-old, I keep emphasizing 1-year-old, 1-year-old, alcohol is disturbing, but if they were laughing, this goes to a jury. You know, if you're a defense attorney, how do you find a jury that's not going to be just appalled by that?
You plead it out. That's how you find it. You don't go to the jury.
Yeah.
This is not the kind of case you want to take to the jury. And under these charges, you don't, because they're relatively minor charges compared to what they could possibly charge. I mean, this is not good, but it could be more serious. And if it's more serious, that's when you can talk about going to trial and fighting it. But right now, nah, this thing will settle.
By the way, these allegations are very serious. And you think back to the restaurant. Thank goodness for the restaurant. If these allegations are true, they might have not only protected the child, but if they didn't get caught this time, they might have done it another time. Again, taking the allegations as true. Are restaurants legally required to train their employees to spot or report child endangerment? Are they required to intervene? Do you know?
It depends on the state. certain states will require employees in various industries to be trained on human trafficking. If you work for an airline or a hotel, you're going to be trained to spot human trafficking. Now, as far as child neglect, I'm not aware of states that require training of service employees on this, but we always tell people to say something if they see something. And clearly that's what happened here. And kudos to that manager. And they were able to get law enforcement to show up while the patrons were still in the restaurant. So not only did he act, he acted quickly.
What did you make of the CCTV footage?
Well, I mean, it shows consciousness of guilt. It's one thing if you give them beer, that's bad enough. But when you're laughing and you're looking around and trying to conceal your behavior, that shows that you knew what you did was illegal. This wasn't just a guy who's drunk. Remember you said, well, he's loaded, and he may just say, I wasn't in my right mind. Yeah, you.
I don't know for sure, but yeah.
Well, he was in his right mind enough to look around and make sure no one was seeing what he was doing. And they were having their own little inside joke with each other. But again, they're not living in 2025 where there are cameras everywhere. I mean, they should be charged with being dopes.
Well, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the report for a second, because it provides more details that I think are interesting. So the responding officer says that when he arrived at the bar, he first went outside to talk to Banks. And the report details, quote, while speaking with Mr. Banks, he had a strong odor of an alcoholic beverage coming from his person. Mr. Banks advised that he had been at the restaurant for about an hour. While speaking with Mr. Banks, he stated, why am I talking to him? I advised Mr. Banks of the reason I was there, and he advised, my baby is one. Why the bleep would I do that? Now, I mentioned earlier that according to police, Gregory admitted to what happened. Well, police say she wasn't initially truthful. According to the report, Miss Gregory advised that they hadn't been drinking, and she gave the child a sip of her tea and advised she knew nothing of the child drinking any beer. But you remember that body cam? The manager apparently says that's definitely beer when looking at the surveillance footage. You know, Dave, the strong odor of alcohol, you talk about deceptiveness, the body cam, these initial questioning of the suspects is huge in a case like this.
Sure. And the police report said that the odor of alcohol was coming from his person. By the way, as an aside, who talks like that unless you're a cop, right? I mean, there was a Seinfeld episode about that, from your person, right? I mean, that's like cop talk. All right. But in real life, the jury's going to see that and going to say, like, yeah, these guys are disgusting and they're deceptive. Also, the wife seemed to flip later on because after she's caught lying, she decided to come clean. That's not good for the husband because there is a spousal privilege and a spouse is not required to testify against the other spouse as long as they're still married. So it looks like, no, she's trying to save herself now.
And I'll get to that in a second, but it's not like, what are you talking about? Like if one parent was, giving the child beer when the other one wasn't looking, like I have no idea what you're talking about. The fact that she was allegedly deceptive and allegedly lied, and so allegedly he did too, they were in it together. Do you try them together, by the way?
You can, but again, this isn't going to go to trial. But what you do is you cut a deal with the wife, and now there's such pressure on the husband. They're both culpable, but the husband is more culpable than the wife. Right? He was
feeding
the alcohol. So that's the one. Yeah. So the wife cuts a deal. She doesn't serve any jail time, and then she testifies against the husband. And so, yeah, that's going to break up the marriage too, I would guess.
Well, at this point, it's maybe, but at this point, the officer, he goes back inside the bar, watches the video, right? Comes back out, arrests the couple, and this is when police say Gregory came clean. So according to the report, quote, I read Miss Gregory's Miranda warning, and she agreed to talk to me. Miss Gregory advised that she wasn't thinking and made a dumb decision. But Banks, not so forthcoming. He even allegedly became belligerent. The officer states, Mr. Banks was yelling, advising, I'm going to bleep in your car. I was advised to take him to the jail due to his behavior. Dave, why is it so important that she was Mirandized and then allegedly confessed?
Because if she's not Mirandized, then it would be an improper confession. You have the constitutional right to remain silent. And if it's a custodial discussion, like she's not allowed to leave, then a custodial interrogation, then you have to give the Miranda rights, or else you jeopardize the whole case because then the confession goes bye-bye and you're back to square one. So that's why it was important to read her rights. And she still spilled the beans. It's amazing how criminal defense lawyers are put out there cringing because it even says you have the right to a lawyer. Had she requested a lawyer, the questioning would have stopped. But, these people are not going to win awards for being good parents or intelligent individuals.
When she says, or allegedly said, I made a dumb decision, what does that say to you?
That she made a dumb decision.
Yeah.
And the second dumb decision was confessing to the cops. But I'm glad she did as a former prosecutor. But yeah, these aren't the sharpest knives in the tool shed.
I bleeped it out, but basically he was saying that he was going to urinate in the car. Which, by the way, if that's a threat, Is that a crime? Maybe interference with government property? I would look that up. I was wondering if that might be.
It would be a crime if you intentionally do it, and that's what he's admitting to. So he could have just done it and then
what
gone
happens if
away
he's so
with it.
drunk I can't?
So drunk, sorry, and I had to go. What do you want me to do? But now he's saying, I'm going to do this to punish you. Yeah, you can be charged for that.
Yeah.
So again, the guy just keeps compounding his mistakes.
Now, I wanted to ask you about this. This is a little weird note about this. You might think it's an open and shut case. It might be. However, this happened. When the officer transported this couple to the jail, he noted that he left some of the items on the top of the car before driving off. So that included the phones, keys, a wallet, their phones, keys, and wallet. And he notes that another officer was able to retrieve the cell phones, not the keys or the wallet. And to top it all off, the phones were damaged. Is that a problem?
The phones containing perhaps text messages that have admissions and other damaging information.
I mean, that quickly? Not really. And that
right.
kind
That's
of
why I don't know the value of it. I mean, you got him on video. You got a confession by the wife. And the video itself, that's going to be the most powerful evidence.
Well, can a defense attorney say, look how sloppy this police officer was, he mismanaged what could have been evidence in this case, why should we trust anything else, jury?
Sure, but then why lie? When they show the interview afterwards, and he's clearly lying about even being at the bar. If you did nothing wrong, if it wasn't beer, why lie? So there's lots of conscience of guilt here, and that's why I don't think he'll even go to trial, because his lawyer will be like, they got you, dude.
Well, what are they facing? I think if I read it correctly, it's a misdemeanor. It could be a felony if it wasn't their first offense, if it was like multiple offenses. They wouldn't be facing significant, less than a year in jail or up to a year in jail. I mean, this is a serious situation, but do you imagine upgraded charges? Do you think that this is going to be pled out? You don't think this is going to trial? Why do you think that?
I don't. It's a misdemeanor, and the evidence is strong, and even though there's a lot of community pressure here to put these people away for life, the law is what it is, and it depends on their rap sheet. If they have one, are they first-time offenders? And as far as whether the charges will be upgraded, it depends on what other facts come out. But the fact that we're talking about it, a misdemeanor in Georgia, will put extra pressure on prosecutors there because they watch the same programs that we do.
Has it ever been talked about, and by the way, I don't know this, if you supply alcohol to a minor, particularly someone younger, let's say, than 9 years old, is that ever a felony in and of itself, a one-time action?
I'm not aware that, it depends on the neglect. Depends on...
Should it be a felony?
Well, yeah, perhaps it should be, but also, every case is different. What's the intent? Are they intentionally putting beer in the child's mouth because they want to get this child drunk, because they think it's a game? There are parents who, when a child has a toothache, may take, I speak from experience, my dad used to take a little brandy and put it on my tooth. Should that be a felony? No. It's different. There's different gradations. Every state is different also, so it just depends on the feelings of the legislators in the state and the community values.
So, as I mentioned, while they're in jail, the child was transferred to, I believe, Bank's mother, so a grandparent in this case. If they take a deal, right, no jail time, plead guilty, even if they are convicted and whatever the situation is, could they ever get custody of that child again? And how would that work?
Yes, the state protective services will do a full investigation. And if the parents just escape this with a misdemeanor, if they show remorse, if it's a quality home that the child is living in, then they'll move on. But they're going to do a full inspection of everything to do with these parents. Their income, they're going to look to see if there's electricity on the home and whether the refrigerator is stocked for food. And so they've opened up a whole can of worms by doing this.
Dave Aronberg, so good seeing you. Thanks so much for coming in. Check out Florida Shuffle, even though he didn't bring me a signed copy. This is his only one.
Next
I'm
time,
very
it's
insulted.
Fighting the Florida Shuffle.
Fighting the Florida Shuffle.
Can't miss that, because I think there are other Florida Shuffles, but we're fighting the
Well,
Florida
there you go.
Shuffle.
Fighting the Florida Shuffle. Thank you so much.
And next time I'm here, free copy for you.
I would like one. Thank you very much. Good seeing you, Dave. And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.